Good evening and welcome to another exciting episode. It is Triple Chat Tuesday and this is episode number 55. I never get tired of watching that video, courtesy of Dean McLaughlin, that little intro. But as you will notice, that is not Lance we have on the screen tonight. We have Kent and we have Cole joining us this evening. So we welcome both of you. And as always, I always like to ask, how has your week been, gentlemen? So who would like to go first? Alphabet first. So we'll start with Cole.
Oh, thank you. It's been very good. This whole journey started with child protection. It's ramping up. It's in new contexts. It's in new avenues. I, with Ainsley, of course, and a few others, have been fighting for child protection most recently through, libraries and common places. I invite everyone to look at the Sustainable Development Goals, 17 of them. Often a lot of the things that we have take umbrage to are found therein. So that's what's kept me busy lately.
Wow. And on that topic, Cole, just before we came on here, I was listening to, not that I listen to the news very much or take too much notice of it, but it was interesting because we are doing work in that area. There was a childcare worker that was up on 1,693 abuse charges, 136 rape charges, 110 accounts of dealing with girls under the age of 10. Another 180 charges. This goes across two states, both Queensland and New South Wales, involving 23 children.
Yeah, and sharing child exploitation. Presumably he made some of himself. So hopefully there's a bunch of other people that'll get done for this because he was sharing it. That means he shared it with someone.
Yeah. So it is everywhere, and we are really blessed or glad that we're able to share all this with other people, will open their eyes to what's really going on around the country in so many different industries and areas. It's like, I don't think there's any industry that's not.
Yes. And
what can I say? Yeah. I'm sort of lost for words, when I talk about this because it's just so damning and sad, and just makes my skin crawl. Anyway, Kent, how have you been? How's your week? I know you're feeling a bit under the weather tonight, so if you see Kent ducking away, we do make a little apologies just to start with, but Kent's hanging in there with us and he's a bit under the weather, but we do welcome you to the call tonight, Kent, and hope that you're feeling better.
Yeah, under the weather is because I've eaten something that's caused an allergy to strike up. As quickly as that came on and as violently as that came on, the ginger tea that you recommended I have, Ainsley, seemed to have sorted that out.
Excellent.
So hopefully I won't have any hassles with that.
Oh, good.
Had an interesting phone call from Teen, who most of us know, this afternoon, and I got back into a few of my studies in the Queensland Criminal Code, and I'm seeing the changes that are happening in the Queensland Criminal Code that actually help to facilitate questionable sexual literature getting to children in our schools. It's quite disgusting. It is right along the lines of what both you and Cole are talking about. So that's one avenue that I've been looking at. But this week I managed to participate in a wonderful public event at Rockley in Brisbane. We had 300 odd people turn up to attend a speech that's talking about new technology and, of course, how we can build a new government beside our government with the original Aboriginal nations who actually have the lawful right to form government in this country. And how the Queen of England and the royal family of England never, ever, ever had a right to set up any sort of government in this country. Of course, that's what Albanese's trying to do with his voice rubbish. It won't work. And we've got to build parallel systems to keep our children safe, because it seems that our government is absolutely hell-bent on destroying its own citizens and destroying the morality of this entire nation. So there you go. That's my week.
Oh, excellent. Well, I've had a very busy day, a very satisfying day, actually. We had, speaking of court stuff today, not for me, but one of my neighbours was evicted through a court order. And of course, they're elderly landlords. We went down to speak to them. And unfortunately, some people, let's just say pigs live cleaner than the people that were living in this particular house from the inside. The whole place is trashed completely, and they just kind of did a runner. They didn't take much, but the place was just left a mess. So today I was whippersniffering the whole back garden, and I was covered from head to toe in dry, wet grass and dog manure. So it was nice to come home and have a nice clean shower and get ready for triple tap. But it was really satisfying being able to just give of your time and your energy to help other people, because they are pensioners, they don't have a lot. And look, we're going to be at it for at least another 2 weeks, and then we've got all the fixing and the damages that are going to be done as well. So it's nice to be able to, be able to go give back some time to your neighbours. So, and there's another one of our neighbours that's helping as well. So it's kind of like a neighbourly affair. So that was my rewarding day today. So, but anyway, I've been really, really looking forward to tonight's interview because there's a particular part of this interview that I'm really, really curious to know more about. So ladies and gentlemen, sit back. I'm just going to share my screen so that you don't have to look at my face when I'm talking. You can look at the lovely face of this lovely lady. Her name is Sanchia Romani. Hopefully you guys can see that. Just give me a thumbs up. Kent or Cole, if you can. Yep, cool. So ladies and gentlemen, sit back for a little bit. I always love sharing the bios of the interesting people that we have, and some have got nice long stories. This one's a little bit long, but it's a really good story, and we'll hear more from Sanchia in a moment. So in 2016, Sanchia Romani experienced a violent home invasion where she and her children were almost killed, had her whole life turned upside down, lost her home, business and lifestyle overnight. Sanchia relocated interstate to feel safe, to recover and heal from physical, emotional and psychological trauma, assisting 2 of her traumatized children rehabilitate using gardening and nature, all whilst managing her menagerie of horses, ducks, chickens, cats and dogs in an environment of survive or die in an area where she knew no one, isolated and rural. Sanchia's living conditions were rudimentary, living in a rundown shack with no power, no refrigeration, washing machine, 1 gravity-fed cold water tap for years, all while navigating an ugly divorce in the midst, her privacy sacred. Then arrived the scandemic, commonly known as COVID. Sanchia sent an email to a local printer to obtain a quote for a flyer someone had produced regarding concerns of the governance in Australia and a silent stand. Nothing COVID related was on the flyer. The printer began contracting, quotes obtained, but within days, a further email was sent to Sanchia stating that the printer management refused to print the flyer and that their views had to be respected. Sanchia responded to the email stating that the printer's refusal was discriminatory in nature. Early the very next morning, 2 men, armed, dressed in New South Wales police officer uniforms, took the liberty to jump a paddocked gate with no trespass notice affixed and pass a second no trespass notice inside the gate and proceeded onto Sanchia's rural property and walked up her driveway. Now, Sanchia's daughter, 19, and her son, 14, were at home at the time and were alarmed and triggered due to the previous trauma that they had experienced, and seeing the police officers proceed up the driveway. Now, Sanchia's daughter quickly went to meet the police officers halfway down the driveway and asked them to hop off the property, and the men asked the daughter why, and she replied that she did not feel comfortable. The New South Wales police officer did not leave. The New South Wales police officer did not state their names or the reason why they were attending the property. The police officers proceeded to question the daughter and asked if Sanchia was home and when she would be home, and asked for Sanchia's contact details and intimidated the daughter, asking her what she had behind her back, which was, of course, her phone. The police officers threatened to return, and it took 1 month to find out who the 2 policemen were and why they attended the property. The police officers' attendance was due to the printer dobbing in and violating Sanchia's privacy when no lawful reason existed to do so. So disturbed, triggered and distressed by the New South Wales Police Force agents' actions, having had their families privacy violated, Sanchia's daughter intimidated her son and daughter being home alone, her daughter having asked the men to leave and did not, Sanchia took the matter to the Supreme Court of New South Wales and filed a tort claim of trespass against the men. Sanchia used no lawyers and is not trained in legal, and she used, take this one down, people, the Free Courts Act of 1400. As justice is not to be sold to the people, and we're happy to say that Sanchia won against the state of New South Wales. Now, judgment was in Sanchia's favour on the 7th of February 2023, and a common law precedent judgment for all Australians to benefit from. So well done, Sanchia. She was awarded damages, and this has not yet been honoured by the state of New South Wales. Now, what's going to be exciting tonight is that Sanchia was in the Supreme Court today over the matter of damages awarded on July the 26th, as the state is attempting to claim approximately $8,000 above the damages awarded to Sanchia for her costs. Now, such actions by the state are unconscionable. So Sanchia is one determined woman who will empower you and energise you to know your power and your rights simply and powerfully, and assist you to find yourself and know who you are in these wonderful times that we find ourselves living through. We've got this. Sanchia is also concerned about government state overreach and is now actively educating people on their inalienable rights. If you don't know what your rights are, people, you have none. So we definitely do need to know what our rights are. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please let's welcome Sanchia Romani to the call, and let's get this interview underway. So there you are. So Sanchia, welcome to the call. And firstly, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. A little bit tired, but very well. Thank you.
You've had a big day. You're in the court today and you've been driving lots, as you were telling us before. So I guess we're curious to know, how did today go before we get the interview underway?
Well, we had a very interesting day. Last week we had the court proceedings to decide upon the matter of costs that the state are claiming. Yep. Okay. So, and the matter was adjourned because for various reasons again today, and the justice is reserving his judgment. So I'm hoping that within the next 2 weeks that should come through.
Sanchia, I'm curious. The state is claiming costs, but they lost the court case. So they must be alleging that you caused them a cost somehow outside of this court case. We seem to have lost Sanchia there for a little bit, but I'll just keep talking until she comes back.
So initially the claim was filed as principal over agents. So when I filed that claim, the state interloped into proceedings. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So the state interloped into proceedings against our consent. They were added to the proceedings. Never did we consent, because it was very clear and evident that the men were not acting in their official police capacity, as they had no warrant, no probable cause, there's no emergency. And so for them being added against our verbal and written consent at the court, they awarded costs to the state. So what could have happened is that the state could have been added, but you see, the state does not, no man or woman has the right to deny anybody their claim of who trespassed or, assaulted, whatever, trespassed against them. And that's exactly what happened. So to me, that is an injustice. At the time, I was unaware that I needed to appeal that decision. And quite frankly, I did not think that I should have to appeal such a decision. And generally, costs, I would think, are decided at the end of a trial after the judgment. And then, so with them added, I just kept pressing forward. Obviously, I'm not trained in legal or lawful. I'm just persistent and having a go because my rights were violated. And so when I then put in a notice of motion to have evidence come forth, I was not what they said was entirely successful, and I should pay the costs because of the state, because their evidence was considered privileged. So an investigation was carried out upon me, and they actually had no evidence. Look, it's quite involved. I won't go into all of the details, but basically, in my view, it was a railroad event.
And I spent nearly 20 years as a police officer in two jurisdictions inside Australia, and for them to say that their investigation and their evidence is privileged when they're the ones who began it is completely against any law of equity.
That's right.
It's also, in my opinion, against what they've done is highlight completely unprofessional and improper police behaviour, and now their bosses are just trying to cover it up and not spend any money when, quite obviously, they owe you a debt.
Ladies and gentlemen, we might have a few little glitches tonight.
It's come back.
You come back? Excellent. Sanchia is a little bit of a remote area, so we are having a little bit of intermittent troubles with the internet, so just bear with us tonight, please.
So go on, Ken.
Yeah, so I don't know if you heard that last bit, but the fact is they're the ones who started this. They did everything. They trespassed. You needed to defend yourself and point out and make a complaint that they'd done the wrong thing. They chose not to do the wrong thing. You've sued them in court, and now they're trying to claim costs when they've been found guilty. I don't understand how that works. It's completely against every law of equity and every law of fairness that we understand to be Australian in this country.
That's correct. And obviously, I have brought up what I think is a very exhaustive amount of information to support exactly that in all my paperwork. And there's been a lot of paperwork. And so, today, again, I reminded the court that, justice must not just be done, it must be seen to be done. This is very important. This is not just about me. This is about everybody else. You can't have somebody who agents of the state trespassed against and then have that individual then penalised for the actions of those agents of the state. That is immoral, unconscionable, and not lawful.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And let's point out, all across Australia, if police have documents like court documents to serve on a person who is at an address, or if there's proof of an offence or reasonable belief that an offence is taking place, and let's be honest, reasonable belief is a solid level of proof. You've got to, people need to be able to look at that. The general community needs to be able to look at reasonable belief and say, yeah, we can understand why they thought an offence was taking place. There's no such evidence in this particular case, and there's no documents to be served. The police weren't obeying any act. They simply decided that they'd be bullies and come up your driveway and scare the living daylights out of your kids.
Correct. I became a person of interest. All my privacy has been violated. I've seen some documents that, produced.
Oh, we've frozen her again. Hopefully she'll come back. Let's see there.
As evidence, but as far as the law, and that is a concern when you have men dressed up in blue uniforms with weapons on their hips, coming onto people's properties. And in that trial, when the cross-examination was taking place, they just didn't know. It's gobsmacking. And then to further the injustices, for my court case today, the hearing today, I had filed documents last week. They just don't file them. The clerks at the court do not file them. Now, I've used that Free Courts Act the whole way through. I have the evidence of that. and my communications right from the start, and I share that with people, because people need to start getting up and saying, well, if she did it, we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And so when I went to file some documents last week, oh yes, we're going to file them. I followed it up, rang every day. I mean, I've had this situation happen before, and yesterday again made contact, and I mean, it's an absolute farce. We have some very undesirable situations happening here of control to the detriment of the people, and it must stop.
Sanchia, let me just ask you, since all of this happened, how are you and how are your children?
Well, it's certainly been quite a interesting and stressful journey. We've had undercover police informants stalk myself and my children when we go into our local town of Kyogle. My daughter and I left for several months before the trial just to feel safe, and my other son was in somebody else's care. And it certainly has had its challenges. Not that we felt incredibly fearful, but we just wanted peace of mind. However, it is rather disconcerting, and it's certainly not nice when you have people sitting right down to you, next to you in a coffee shop, or following you in their car. And this is exactly what has happened to us in that small area.
Yeah. Now, you started this journey and you represented or presented yourself in court. How long have you been down this avenue of, doing that sort of stuff for yourself, as far as understanding what your rights are? And where did you start with that journey?
Well, I mean, I've always stood up for myself, and I guess, information comes across. We're all on.
Oh, we've lost her again.
She'll be back.
Yep. Good old internet.
Oh, can you still hear me?
You're back.
Yeah, we lost you for a bit there, but yeah, carry on.
Right. So really, with the work that I'm doing now, it's really only been probably the last few years, and it's been intense, very intense.
Yeah.
But we must do our due diligence, and because we've all been really dulled down as to our rights, and we have to we're in a crisis at the moment in this country, and obviously all over the world, and we just have to get in, step up, and put that due diligence in, so that things don't keep propelling crazily out of control.
Yeah. Cole, did you have a question?
Yeah, look, I'm curious with this going back to the Free Access to Courts Act. Now, it's an ACT Act, although it's originally, I think it says Henry IV on it. Which would have been what, Bolingbroke? I know this because of Shakespeare, only, not so much history. What did that look like? A, how you found it, and B, how you applied it to the courts, whether it's filing it or, what did that journey look like?
I'll answer that in two parts. So it was on the internet. Somebody had told me about it, and I looked it up. The actual original act cannot be found. And regardless of that act, we have the Magna Carta of 1215. We have our God-given birthrights. The people are not to be sold justice. We have a private commercial system, and not all of it is bad. We don't need to throw the baby out with the bathwater. However, we seem to have quite a lot of control and corruption and money making in the judiciary and in the powers that be. So, yes, we don't actually, in my view, an act is an act. And if we have comprehension of acts and who actually formulates those acts, they're not the be all and end all of life. So we need to stand in our rights and not be sold justice. That is an injustice.
So the whole point, we're not to be sold justice, means that if we are charged and we need to defend ourselves, we have to be able to do that at zero cost.
Well, I think so.
Me too. But is that what's pointed out in this act?
Yes, it is. I haven't got it in front of me. You can look. You can still look that up. The free access to courts, and
we've lost her again. I've just put while we wait for her to come back, I've just put a link in there for the OSLI, which is a great reference for legal stuff in Australia.
I think it's something that all. So can you hear me again?
Yeah, sorry, Sanchia. We just, when you drop out, we just sort of keep talking. So just be mindful when you come back in. I was just saying, we put a link in the chat to the Free Courts Act through OSLI. There's some notes there about that. But yeah,
so when I filed my originating claim, which I didn't even do that properly, I was sent a invoice for the sum of $1,169, and I was given 2 days to pay that. And I thought, well, I've just been wronged, and here to me this is another wrong. And I thought, well, this is not acceptable. How are the people who have nothing supposed to get justice? Supposed to get remedy for the wrongs done against them? So I decided to ignore it for that and put it aside for a bit. And then it was the following week that I came to the knowledge of the free access to courts, or the Free Courts Act of 1400. And so I sent an email back into the Supreme Court, and I said to them, I said, we decline your offer to contract via invoice and reserve our rights according to the Free Courts Act of 1400. And the very next day, I received my information and my documents were filed, and I have not paid for the whole over 2 years that I've been through the courts. So that has been challenged at different times. They tried to stall things off and, invoice me, but I just, let's go, it's already been established. You can't go back. You can't change your mind. It's done.
Well done.
That might have answered, sorry, Cole, that might have answered my...
Sorry.
Can you hear me, Cole? That's okay. I was just going to ask that to you in regard to that. I wonder if you can go back after you've paid, like in the middle of a court case and paid a fee for something, whether you could send them a bill and say, under this act, I want to be reimbursed for something that I should have gotten for free.
Well, all those areas are a little bit, it doesn't really quite work like that. So, we want fair, reasonable and equitable remedy. And so there's certain honour that goes with that. And, each situation has its own, merits that need to be attended to. But, for myself going in as the plaintiff and presenting myself, obviously I'm not putting in for, costs, even though it has taken costs and time and effort, but it's not really quite how it works. In my
Go ahead, Cole. Sorry to cut you off.
Oh, look, I was going to just send a shout out to anyone that enjoys reading, whether it can be said that anyone enjoys reading legislation. For anyone that's out there, researching, or you have to. It's a love hate. Read the Act. The Act is only about 2 pages long. It's actually very short. The Access to Courts Act 1400. I see also it refers to, what was it, the Imperial Acts Application Act 1986, which sort of was their explanation as to, how it's transferred and communicated through the ACT, where it's obviously from the 1400s in UK, so it's an interesting read, folks, and very easily done.
I think also for people, there's a really great course I encourage everybody to do. A friend of mine in England, Mark Horn, and he offers this free course. It's the peacekeepers.org.uk. I encourage everybody to do it because it gives a very clear comprehension, understanding of what the parliament is, what the monarch is, and what their duties and obligations and limitations are. We get very confused about legislation and its application. And it's very important that we empower ourselves to know that we, the people, are the supreme authority. They have the monarch, because it's based in the UK, we're a Commonwealth country, it comes from there. The monarch and the Lords Spiritual, the Lords Temporal, and the Commons get together and they make a contract and the monarch takes an oath to govern the people, not to prejudice them, not to disadvantage them. And they have to, if they want to do that, they need to do it without disadvantaging us and causing us harm. And we do not have to adhere to any of any nonsense legislation that does us harm is of detriment to us. And it's very important that we, the people, comprehend this so that we can walk in the freedoms that we've actually been given by our Creator.
Right on.
Some of the difficulties we're facing with that, Sanchia, is that we increasingly have a population, it appears, that just don't care about their freedoms, and they want the responsibility of life taken from them, and they want the government to solve all their problems. What are the dangers that you see around that if people just let the government, decide everything?
Just look around. Around.
Well, I mean, we're sold on this, but I want to hear what Sanchia
we're living
has
it,
to
aren't
say.
we? So every week or every day, sometimes I have people contact me. They've been locked up for 6 months. Innocent people. Or their children have been taken away. We are in a crisis right now, and it's the crisis that's going to wake people up. We can thank the pandemic because it has woken a lot of us up. It's got us to a stage where we are connecting and making healthier relationships because we need to, and this country is in crisis. And I feel there's a shift coming. I feel more and more people are starting to get it, and that's why I get on the road with my friends at the Billboard Battalion. We get out there and we are sharing what we're doing. We're showing, hey, people, now's the time to step it up. We can do it lawfully, we can do it peacefully, but we must do it now.
Yeah, well, I'm about an hour and 45 away from you, so I'll get in contact with you after this interview. I want to drive down to Kyogle, which I'm at frequently anyway, and catch up with you and see what you guys are all about on a larger scale. But thanks for letting me slot that in there, Cole. I know you've got more questions to ask, mate, so I'll stop cutting you.
Hey, I'm only one of many. Thank you, mate. Tell us about the Billboard Battalion. Are you able to sort of name some names and give us some brief backgrounds, please?
So they're a great little team. We have Wade Northhausen, Nick, I can't remember Nick's last name, and Charlene and Judith. And so they're basically, Wade is very focused on empowering people, just saying it's time to get up and get going, and talking about, his work obviously with the Victorian Farmers Federation and reaching out to farmers and just raising people's awareness of what situation that we've got now. So, it's been amazing. If 5 people turn up, it's so worth it. If 100 people turn up, even better, but one person can make a difference. If I can do it, everybody else can do it. And so that's what these guys, they've given up their life to hit the road. And so they've been dragging me from town to town. Yeah.
Very inspiring.
Billboard Battalion, they're great.
Yeah, just put the link in the chat for anyone who might not be watching along with the chat. A lot of the links to everything we've been talking about, peacekeepers.org.uk, the Imperial Act Application Act, and billboardbattalion.com, all in the chat, guys. Make sure you grab them before we end tonight's interview, but we will put some of these links on the main Tap Telegram page once we've finished. So where to from here, Sanchia?
Yeah.
Where to from here, Sanchia, now after the court case today?
Well, my whole life now is mapped out with court cases for the next few years. So I'm about to take on some other matters in my local area involved with the local police and their overreach. So that will be on my list of things to do, and a few other individuals. We have to think that this is what we must do. We have to hold wrongdoers to account, because everything else is turning a blind eye. So for me also, I try to educate people. I'm not anyone special. I just am doing, and I'm asserting my rights. And so I like to try to keep things simple for people, because it's too complicated. We've got to bring it down to a grassroots level for people so that they can actually feel empowered to do something. And so that's what I do. So I teach people how to write, how to do lawful notices, and that's not petitioning. That is to assert their rights, to address our local, not ours, but the local councils, and start to put the pressure on to start questioning all these private corporations that are causing people so much stress, harm, and injury.
Is there a website that you do this through, or you're doing like online Zooms, or you're doing live events, or how can people connect with you if they want to learn more?
It's coming soon. I'll be starting a members group, but at the moment you can either contact me directly or through Billboard Battalion.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Are you finding you're getting cooperation from other sort of the so-called existing freedom groups? You know, these larger entities that have sort of been popularized over the last few years.
Well, I'm probably just sort of coming into that a little bit now and connecting with people, and that's why I work with Billboard Battalion at the moment, because I love their ethos and just getting out there and getting the message out there. But I'm not really up to speed with what everybody's doing.
Look, there's so many of them. In the early days, Sanchia, we in the Australia Project, or TAP, we tried to unite all the heavy hitters in the freedom movement in Australia. Yeah. And unfortunately, what we found, and I will say this, was that a lot of them just, when you weigh them all up, they were just grifters. All they were looking for was money.
Look, yeah, that's right. Look, I mean, in the past, I have seen a little bit of some dynamics from when I have sort of jumped in to have a look about what's going on. But I think it's getting sorted out now. I think we're reaching a point now where we need to all come together and just get the job done.
Precisely. We have to come together, which is why I'm suggesting I'm going to come see you in Kyogle. But that's what we have to do. And we don't even all have to have exactly the same approach.
That's right.
But we should counsel and work together so that our varied approaches all work together.
Exactly. You need lots of strategies. I mean, anybody who goes into a battle certainly just doesn't have one strategy. We need lots of strategies, and we need lots of people, and we need to put our small differences aside, and we need to be mature and responsible and start to see the bigger picture. Because if we don't start seeing what the bigger picture is going to hold, then we're going to be in some very serious trouble, which we already are in. So lose the egos. And, we need a little bit of ego to get the job done, perhaps. But, we all have to start to mature up and start to live from our hearts and start to really get back to genuinely caring about other people.
Yeah. Wise words.
You won't get any argument from us. That's what we've tried to do the whole way through. And we have achieved various levels of success, and we've had some failures, and we've had to change tack. But we're utterly committed to working with people whose hearts are integrity based, for the benefit of this country. And you're right, the little differences don't mean anything. The most important thing is we band together, because something you just pointed out is that we are in serious trouble right now. If I can, Ainsley, I'll just take 30 seconds or less, and I'll point out one of the ways we're in so much serious trouble. As a police officer in Queensland, if I had walked up to an offender, even if they were obviously an offender, and used too much force on that offender, and even the police became so clear about these things, you were never allowed to choke a person unconscious using a carotid neck restraint unless it was a last resort. They made that very clear. Through the COVID pandemic, we have seen absolutely gratuitous acts of violence by police, and we have seen the pleasure in their eyes as they've done it, the pure violence, the anger, it has been horrific for me to witness. And I have been in terrible situations having people wielding axes at me and things like that. To see the level of violence that was displayed on the Australian people, and it was unchecked by the senior leadership, absolutely unchecked violence. And now they think they're just allowed to do it.
Yep.
That's why it's so important for people like you and like us to stand up against them, hold them to account, and keep going.
And this is a process. My view is that this is very much a tangible journey, but is also a very spiritual journey. And we are being challenged to overcome our fears. And for me, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to live my life in fear. My time will be up when my time is up, and there's not going to be any man or woman who's going to, take my rights away from me. And so when we reach that point where we can start to overcome some of these fears that we have, so I've lost everything once before, going through that, the violent home invasion and suffering so greatly, I reached a different level. And so now it's like, well, what else can you take from me? You can't take who I am. You might take my home, you might take my clothes, but that's okay. Other doors will open. We have to start to enter into a different level of thinking. This is very much a psychological thing. We've been indoctrinated for many years from very young age. The shift is here. It's coming. It's time to get on board, step up, and overcome these things, and get around like-minded people where we can be empowered.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd just like to give a shout out for a beautiful comment that's just been made to you from Christine from Victoria. Thank you so much for this. Bravo, Sanchia. And I agree 100%. We are in a lot of trouble. No rights. It's a horrible time with so many around us, so completely blind with everything. So yeah, so true. My whole family's a bit asleep, but I actually took the opportunity just the other day. Rod Cullerton did a live with Len Harris on what's happening and what they're doing. They're going to be on the 15th of August stepping up to Parliament and hold them accountable to what they're doing. And I really wanted my dad to hear it, so I played the audio. I made him listen to it while we were gardening. So that's how I sort of slipped that in there. It's like, you got to listen to this. This is to do with everyone's mortgage. So I encourage everyone to go and listen to that as well. It's on the main tap page.
Beautiful.
Yeah, there are many fights taking place, Ainsley. Many fights. So do you want to give us a little bit about Rod Cullen and what Les Harris are doing, or is it a bit off topic for tonight?
No, it's not really off topic, because it's still to do with legal, and they're holding the politicians to account for their oath, that a lot of the politicians have not even taken the correct oath. Therefore, all the acts and everything that they've brought forward into this country since 1973, since Gough Whitlam days, is not correct, because their oaths are not the correct oaths. And they're going to be challenging them on all of that, because of particularly what they've done to do with I think the land rights they're using. I can't remember the name of the Aboriginal Act, but there's an act that they're using that it's all part of it. But they'll be going up to Parliament on the 15th of August, and a few other people are coming over as well. I believe Dave Dixon, who's been doing a lot of work with Daryl Dixon, sorry. And of course, Daryl O'Byrne does a lot with the Know Your Rights, and he's been helping Rod Cullerton when they went to England to do a lot of stuff with. So they're very much awake. They've been doing stuff with the farmers as well. But look, there's so much to that 30-minute video. All I'll say is encourage everyone to go and watch it if you'd like to know more, or go to Rod Cullerton's The Great Australian Party. And we don't normally do plugs for parties, but definitely go to that page to watch the video if you're not on Facebook. And learn more about what they're doing, because it is going to affect every single one of us who has a mortgage and land in Australia. And as you guys know, I'm Aboriginal heritage. Thanks, Steve. I'm already in the appeals court in October to do with mortgages. So definitely go and listen to those.
To add to that too, the thing is that we need to comprehend it's never theirs to take away.
Exactly.
All these situations that are happening, we have private corporateers that are claiming something that they have no evidence for that claim.
Yeah.
And this is what we need to challenge.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we need to challenge. They are absolutely, like, even the police forces in this country have removed themselves into a position in law that is untenable. They are no longer police forces ratified by the people. And the governments, even the state governments know this. They've given them all ABN numbers and made them corporations. And these are private security guards who are enacting the laws of private corporations. It's one of the biggest frauds. It's the biggest fraud that I've seen in my life, and it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting.
Yeah.
And knowledge is power, folks. Anyone who's listening, the common factor is just keep learning. It's like eating your vegetables. It's not always very entertaining, but it will do you good, and you'll find other people. And after a while, like maybe taking on a new form of exercise, you start to enjoy that pain it was giving you formerly, and you'll find others that will enrich that experience. So every day, every way, force feed yourself a little bit, just a little bit.
I'm just going to tweak that. I'm going to tweak that saying one little bit, Cole, because yes, knowledge is power, but applied knowledge is more powerful, because knowledge, if you don't apply it, is just knowledge. So you have to actually then start putting that knowledge that you learn into action and start doing the small things to make a difference in order to make the changes.
So, absolutely. Yeah. And we can all make that difference. When I started out, I just started out getting around my community, or I'd list some things, drop them off to different places. And I called my first meeting in the middle of nowhere in rural, and 15 people came. And then, it grows from there. So, yeah, we need to really,
And for yourself as well, folks, we were just, the four of us were talking earlier before this began about how you can lose yourself in this journey. So, I've got to the stage where I do one me thing a day, which I hadn't done for 2 years. I'm only just starting to do it. So, find that balance if you can.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cole, I think you make a really good point there. Finding the balance and not giving up, but, attending to the things that we need to as a person for ourselves, but also pushing ahead, and just doing that little bit with the community. The big thing is joining the community together. Sanchia, I wonder if you've had similar experiences to me. I'm up here in a southeast Queensland town called Boona. I know.
We were just there on Saturday night.
Right, yeah. So I live a little bit outside the town in the country, but the amount of people who live in Boona who are awake is phenomenal. It's like close to 50% of the population here have had enough, and they just don't know what to do. So. But as we begin to join them together, they're gaining momentum. We've also had a few naysayers, a few people who've come out and been fairly belligerent. Have you experienced any of that in your community? Yeah, I'm not sure if you heard that, Sanchia. Have you experienced any belligerence from your community as you've started to join people together?
No, look, you'll always get the random individual who wants to, it's who they are, but generally everybody's very peaceful and looking for resolutions. So we don't really have anybody like that in our community that I'm aware of. And so that's a wonderful thing, mostly across the planet, across our country. People just generally want to get on and do their thing. I mean, we've got generations of systemic state abuse.
Oh yeah.
And we're sort of reeling with all of that, and I think it's really coming to a peak. We're all had enough. So you're going to get different people in the community that might manifest those sort of that belligerence, but like we all know, the belligerence is mostly coming from the state and its agents.
Look, I totally agree with you. And it really has worked to our advantage. as I go through the Queensland legislation and find, and it's right across the country, but the state legislations are where the premiers and the bureaucrats who work for these corporations, who they think they're our government, but anyway, they are in a very unchecked manner just making laws up, push the agenda of the World Economic Forum, and now they've made it, it's a crime where parents can be jailed if they say the wrong things to their children who are suffering gender dysphoria. The simple fact is they can, like, if a child's confused about its sexuality, and let's face it, keep going.
Yeah. So I encourage people in my community, start writing to the schools. This is our community. This is our people. This is our neighbours. We need to step up. We need to start putting these people, these individuals at those schools, at those councils, at the police stations on notice, privately liable for their conduct. It's unacceptable. We, the people, have allowed this to happen because of various reasons. Some of them are own.
We've just lost Sam.
But she's so right. She's so right, Ainsley. The power is in our court. We just need to get off our asses and communicate with each other.
We've been too busy watching TV and going out and sipping coffee when our country is going to peril.
Yeah. And speaking of unacceptable, for those that do want to get involved and start writing letters and what, please encourage you to join the Unacceptable Content for Children's Action Group on Telegram. We meet every fortnight, creating actions in order to make ways to get some of these unacceptable content books off the shelves. I know one of the guys in New South Wales has had some great success in that area. Another lady, Angela's doing some great work in that area. So guys, if you want to, step into that area and help us out, we definitely do need more people writing more letters to councils, to libraries, to schools, to politicians, and really let's start making headways, because if we do nothing, they will just keep rolling out this agenda more and more and more.
And set up systems, like that's what I love about the peacekeepers and different people that they're connected with. They're rocking along. You can set up systems if somebody's going to court. If there's an issue happening with somebody in your community, you can have a structured set up so there's a call system network. Oh, this person's being assaulted. Oh, there's a mum here with her kids and the police are there, whatever. So it goes out to everybody. Everybody in the community, in that vicinity, comes to that situation, not to interfere, but to be there as a presence, filming, witnessing that, and writing their witness statements. It's going to create pressure on those thugs that are there and hopefully deter them from doing anything stupid. And then, should the matter need to go to a court, you have a truckload of evidence to nail them. And that's what we need to do.
TAP satellite groups are designed to, roughly encourage such a spirit, and even other things like just charity.
We used to have in this country a group called Neighbourhood Watch, and it was funded by the government. And Neighbourhood Watch was where, people who lived in a neighbourhood in the community would all gather together, and they would keep an eye out for criminals in their community. And it's what you're describing, Sanchia, is exactly that, but it's government watch.
That's right. I was just about to say, it's definitely government watch, and we need to set up community watch. If somebody's misbehaving.
We've lost Sanchia again.
That's right. Community watch. We need to, it's just terrible. We used to look out for criminals. Now we've got to look out for our government and see what they're doing.
Yeah.
They are supposed to be the bedrock of decency, fairness, and integrity. And take a look at the people who we've got leading us. Just look at them.
And the thing is that we have an abusive system in place, and the state is our relationship is an abusive one. And, you know, with all of the information that's out there, you know, the psychology, all the wonderful university, you know, professors and all the research and everything. And then you've got the prison system. And you've got the most notorious, disgusting things that are happening to people on a whole new level there. How can this be?
Mm-hmm.
We've got so much we need to deal with in this country on all levels. We better hurry up.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll give you guys a great place to start. Just some people that I know that are putting even some introductory, intermediate and advanced workshops out there to get people started on this of knowing what your rights are. It's the Know Your Rights group there. Got some 3 days coming up, one in Perth, 11th, 12th, 13th of August, and one in Sydney, 22nd, 23rd and 24th of September. So jump across to their website. It's a great place to start. We've done a bit of work with them. We've crewed events for them. They're a great place to start, but there's many, many, many groups, guys. You've just got to be a little bit careful and choosy about, you know, discernment of who you go with, what they're teaching you, and just be open to a lot of stuff, and just be mindful where you're putting your pennies as well. So we know these guys, and they're a great place to start. And Daryl O'Brien, like, is part of that group, and so he's got some fantastic knowledge as well with what he's been doing with Rod Cullerton.
And that's that you've raised a good point there. We need to be mindful of where the pennies are going. Help people in the local community, you know, support people that are doing things, you know, on practical levels as well. Yeah,
excellent. We are coming very close to the end. We've got about 5 minutes left, guys. If you've got any other pressing questions you'd like to ask Sanchia, and then we'll see if Sanchia's got some more stuff she'd like to share with us in this closing 4 or 5 minutes.
Well, I was going to give her the opportunity to plug where she was going to go next, and maybe a few more tour destinations.
Well, we're at Woodend tomorrow night, and we are at Kilmore on Friday.
This is Victoria, everyone.
Yeah, Woodend in Victoria.
Yep, she's frozen, but yep. So just for those that don't know.
I'm actually glad you said that, because there's a bunch of wood ends
in Victoria. Yeah, we're in Victoria. Contact the Billboard Battalion.
Excellent.
And I don't know where my life is at the moment. Everybody just organises it for me.
Oh, lucky you.
So, and then we've got the small meetings. Colac on the 9th. And
Bendigo on the 7th.
Bendigo on the 7th.
Excellent.
And that's for Billboard Warriors.
Billboard Battalion.
Battalion. But Billboard Battalion.
Battalion.
I love it. Yeah. I love it. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, we have put that link in the chat, but we'll just repeat it again for anyone who might have come on late. That's billboardbattalion.com. Hopefully I've got that one right, Sanchia. It looks like exactly what you were talking about there. So
that looks like you.
Yeah, so guys, do go check that out. And there's a lot of cool links in the chat tonight. So make sure, if you're able to, save the chat before we close off tonight. Is there any other information you'd like to share with us, and, you know, where to from here then, Sanchia?
If anybody's got any questions, I'm happy to open it up to people if they want to ask anything.
Yeah, I've been following the chat along. We haven't had any at this stage.
No questions?
No, apart from that, I think you've mesmerized them all. But it's definitely an area that I will encourage. I mean, law can be very, very heavy. I myself have been studying trust and equity law for the last 2 years, and it can be very heavy going. So just do it in chunks, people, for what you can manage. And even though you won't know it all in the first, you know, it's like riding a bike. You're not going to get on a bike and just ride it miraculously unless you're really clever. You know, you're going to learn and have those trainer wheels on until you can take them off and then ride for yourself. It's the same with law, and there's many different areas of law. So I encourage each and every one of you to start somewhere and just start, you know, and keep going.
Absolutely. And it's energy as well. I mean, obviously, before I knew what I'm doing now, I still asserted myself, and I've been successful in asserting myself by questioning and holding to account. But, you know, empower yourself with more knowledge so that you can sharpen that spear to make it more precise to the target, or, you know, to make sure you get that target. So, it is very important that we, you know, do educate ourselves, and I think that's why people will find that peacekeepers.org.uk will be excellent. It's something that your teenagers can do. It's not it's not, overbearing. It's brilliant. It's so good and simple, and we need to keep it simple and accessible. Yeah. We don't need to know all the legislations. We don't need to know everything. We just.
Well, it's been a total honour talking with Sanchia tonight. I've got no more questions, and I'm back to you, Ainsley.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Well, we'll give her a second. She's just come back. We're having great comments coming in, like what a fantastic interview from one of our TAP admins there. So look, thank you, Kent. Thank you, Cole, for joining us this evening. It's as always great. But Sanchia, wow, thank you so much. You certainly are an inspiration to each and every one of us, and to women out there, to women standing up for their rights as well, but to each and every one of us, because any one of us can do that as well if we apply ourselves and put our best foot forward. And as I was reminded today, never, ever, ever, ever give up. Just keep going. So on that note, persistence, absolutely. So on that note, I'm going to say thank you, Kent. Thank you, Cole. Thank you, Sanchia. Absolute pleasure. We'll look forward to speaking to you again. And thank you to everyone who's joined us this evening. We do hope you've enjoyed this interview tonight. We will get the replays up as soon as we can. We've got a few to go, but hopefully we'll see you next time on Triple Tap. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.